Hey folks, in this video, I wanted to share my analysis and recent learnings from a startup called Goodfire AI. It's a company that's located in San Francisco and they got well over $200 million dollars in funding. The recent lead investor is Lightspeed Venture Partners. Essentially, what this startup is working on is AI tooling around large language models, specifically interpretability tooling, right? Sounds very complex, but let me break it down for you folks and help you folks understand what this is all about. In the video, as you can see the image right here from the YouTube video, I recommend watching it as well. The founder was talking about the problem statement that he's seeing across the board with all of this AI scaling we're seeing. The problem is humans today are recklessly scaling AI. And if you look at any of the leaderboards from, like, let's say, Ella Marina over here, or even artificial analysis, you can see the different LLMs that are getting larger and larger and larger by the day, right? We have Anthropic Claude, ChatGPT over here from OpenAI to GLM to Grok, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So as these models are getting bigger, right, humans are racing to win, but we are at the same time recklessly scaling something that is new on this planet, taking it to production, and not truly understanding the entire thing. The really fascinating thing that the founder was saying was even the researchers and creators of these large language models do not fully understand its capability and everything, do not fully understand it. So, in other words, it's also a black box to the creators and researchers. That's pretty insightful to know. So the solution that he's proposing with Goodfire AI is essentially to build a interpretability bridge between the AI mind or the AI brain and humans ourselves, he says. Um, I really found this fascinating, and I know it could be a complex topic for a lot of folks. So I did draw a little quick visual here that helps me in my mind understand. I love to share with you. Essentially, what he's talking about is this interpretability dissection of a large language model like ChatGPT. But we're going to start off with the left side right here and talk about how ChatGPT is essentially created, right? So it all starts off with us humans at the beginning of time. You know, maybe we were writing things in stones, but eventually we evolved to books and then digitally, right? The moment we started to type everything, we stored it in a database. And so you have first then humanity's entire text space that is collected and aggregated and then pushed through a transformer architecture engine, which is the recent technology behind all of this large language model ChatGPT AI stuff that we all know, right? Essentially, what that is an extreme compression technology, right? In which case, when you use a lot of NVIDIA GPUs to run this transformer engine, you then get your final output being a foundation model, right? Or an LLM, a large language model. In which case, I'll use the example ChatGPT. Now, what this startup, Goodfire, is proposing is, this part right here, us humans are recklessly scaling this larger and larger and larger. And essentially, it is basically coming from humanity's text base on the left over here, right? And then maybe other synthetic data that might come about from the transformer technology, drive it through there. And then you get these scalable brains, in which case we don't understand, and become larger and larger black boxes essentially to the creators. So the bridge or the solution is this interpretability bridge, in which case the way I interpret it, kind of funny, is it's essentially dissecting these large language models. Now, why does this exist? Well, one is, we're talking about AI safety and controlling the evolution and designs of the AI brains that we are scaling so large, recklessly, he says, and even taking them into production that could impact people's lives over here, right? So we want to better understand this, and that's what the tooling is about. Now, that's pretty straightforward, right? Safer AI. But the thing that was really impressive and insightful to me was the comment where he said, essentially, these AIs, right? These brains like ChatGPT or whatever, Anthropic, et cetera, Anthropic Claude, they're so good that they will generate, a really good answer, and we want to understand how it generated those answers, because that's like a net new value to us humans on earth. In other words, like, it's a net new discovery. So, in other words, right, if you think about it, the humanity's text base being compressed with compression technology to create this large language model, in which case now we talk to this ChatGPT, which is like the spirit of humanity, which is pretty, it's like we're talking to ghosts, in which case we don't really fully understand, the creators don't fully understand, and we get our answer. And sometimes the answers that come from these large language models are really, really good. And we want to interpret and study how is it so good? Because essentially, right, I think what the founder is seeing is that there is knowledge or golden nuggets of knowledge inside of these large language models, the weights and biases, right? Or the weights of the models. So unlock superhuman insights buried in the weights to advance humans. And that was just an amazing, it was just such a insightful thing when I read it. If we go to their website, right, and look at, obviously this is the website, you can scroll through it, take a look yourself. But if you go to research, right, I remember there was a topic that the gentleman was talking about using interpretability to identify a novel class of Alzheimer's biomarkers. So, in other words, right, he was saying that sometimes the outputs of these LLMs are so darn good that it teaches the most advanced practitioners in the space something new. And another example he used, I know it's kind of hard for me to explain all this because it's a little bit new to me myself, but another example that he used to explain this, new novel class of research or discovery was he used like a chess grandmaster, and how, leveraging these large language models was able to help the grandmaster become better. So in other words, like, think about, there's a beginner, and then there's like a very advanced or grandmaster individual, right? So a beginner applying new techniques could probably get like an immediate 10% plus potential gain. But for the grandmaster, who is a pro and practicing for a very long time, that gain might just be like less than 1%. So it gets, that marginal benefit for the grandmaster gets significantly harder. But what the founder is saying is that we now have these new technologies like large language models that we could dissect via interpretability tooling to further progress the grandmaster's abilities, right? Which, wow, that was really impressive to me, because again, it's like finding these hidden patterns, or like, I guess, DNA or architecture, or hidden superhuman patterns from the large language model that derives from humanity's text base, right? I probably lost you folks by now. It's a hard topic to explain, but to me, again, it's fascinating. I want to take a stab at this to try to explain it to you guys, um, but hopefully, some of this makes sense. And the best part is you could always rewatch this to understand it better. Anyways, that's the startup right there. They're called Goodfire. We could take a look at their website a little bit just so that you get a feel, right? Understanding intelligence, learning from intelligence. And I'll read this part to you. Goodfire is a research company using interpretability to understand, learn from, and design AI systems. Our mission is to build the next generation of safe and powerful AI, not by scaling alone, right? But by understanding the intelligence we're building. And so it basically, I'll close it with this. It's basically revealed to me and inspired me to realize that the large language models that us humans are scaling ourselves, right? Um, there's gold in here, right? It's a consolidation of humanity's text base, and in these weights are winning patterns or superhuman winning patterns, superhuman workflows or superhuman patterns that we could learn from. And so I think that's what the value that, lead investors like Lightspeed Venture Partners are seeing with this startup. So, anyways, very complex topic. I hope you guys found this insightful. And I love to hear, man, it's a bleeding edge topic. So I love to hear what other folks think out there. So thanks for listening.